It's the Larry Kudlow Show. Free market prosperity starts here. Now, here's Larry Kudlow.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Larry Kudlow. Let's go right to Kevin Hassett, former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors during the Trump administration, distinguished visiting fellow at Hoover Institution, and author of the great book, The Drift, Stopping America's Slide to Socialism. Kevin, welcome back. Thanks, buddy.
Oh, it's great to be here, Larry. Yeah.
And so give me a quick, I thought Trump was on message for the economy during that debate. I thought he did pretty well. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought so too. You know, that a few of us went down and met with him a few weeks before and just had a conversation about everything that's going on, both in Biden's economy and in Trump's economy. And honest to goodness, he didn't need any prep at all. You know what I mean? I mean, he's just like he lives and breathes American politics now and the economy. And so I thought that he was on point throughout the debate. And you know, one of the things that bugs me is that everybody now who are sort of excusing the terrible performance of Joe Biden, one of the things they keep saying is that Trump was lying.
Yes.
But he didn't.
Right.
You know, if you're going to say that, then tell me, what do you think he said that was incorrect? But as far as I, went through and I was keeping track of the economic assertions that he made, everyone was correct.
The Wall Street Journal article in the paper today, it was online last night, was just terrible. Terrible by Vivian Salamis and the others. I'm going to call, I know them all well, I'm going to call them and yell at them before the weekend's over. You're exactly right. Yes, you were right. They shouldn't have said that. You know, it's cool. One thing, he snuck in the stock market. And one of his answers, he said the stock market, by the end of the COVID or by the end of 2020 was actually higher than it was before. I love that because He always talked about the stock market with us. I mean, and you walk in there, you go, "What's the market doing and why?" He put that in there, which was very cool. But you know what? He didn't mention the no tip tax. He didn't mention that.
He's very serious about that one, though. Yeah, I've spoken with him about it. He's very serious.
I know. Me
policy.
too.
That policy is going to be in there, And the other thing that you could do, by the way, if you're thinking about it as a comprehensive policy, do you remember like the 85,000 IRS agents that the IRS hired? They were mostly going after people with tips.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. Because the idea is that they thought that there's all this fraud from people who are, tip workers. And so I think President Trump's plan is going to be to get those 85,000 IRS agents a new job somewhere, or not at all.
Yes.
and not tax tips. And so it's really going to be a huge relief.
I know. I think he should use it in the next debate. I mean, it's a really powerful.
We scratched out the number. Like, I haven't done an official score of it yet, but it's only about $4 billion a year.
Oh, so that's the whole thing, God.
Yeah,
and it causes angst. It causes angst and things.
Yeah,
I know.
No, I don't quote me on that number yet. We've got like the Matt Jensens of the world out there are going to work this out for us. But yeah, I think it looks like a very small number.
I think he made the case on taxes and regulations. He did a beautiful job, and Joe Biden had nothing to say. I mean, what's he going to say about that? The numbers are on Trump's side. Kevin, if you polished up for the next debate, what would you suggest? What should he add?
Well, I thought that what he did here is something which is a main emphasis of his, was to just let Joe Biden talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he really wanted to make sure that Joe Biden had a chance to talk, and not that he wasn't going to stand up for what he believes in and so on, but it was a debate where Joe Biden had a chance to demonstrate that he's capable of doing the job. Frankly, if you and I were there, I think we'd be talking 25th Amendment. If you look at how bad he is, this is a guy who, like, forget about the election, Larry. This guy has to be the commander in chief should China invade Taiwan tomorrow, right? Doesn't that fill you with anxiety? I mean, seriously. And I got to say that they had like these 16 people. They had the list of their names that were preparing him at Camp David for a week. Those people, like, honest to God, they should be finished in American politics because they've been lying to the American people in a way that really threatens the security of our country. So think about it. You can't spend a week prepping the guy that we just saw on stage and not realize that he's not competent to do the job.
Where did they publish? I didn't know that. The names are published? Some
yes,
of them I saw.
They had all 16 names in one of them, like the Wall Street Journal or one place online today.
Wow.
And I'm just saying that if you're a listener, you should look at those names and you should remember never to trust those people ever again.
Kevin,
kind of like the 51 CIA agents said that the laptop is hoax.
Kevin, GDP now tracker from the Atlanta Fed is down to 2.2 for the second quarter, which will end in a couple days. So the first quarter was 1.4. It looks pretty slumpy to me, and the durable goods order was terrible. Retail sales looking pretty soft. Housing is just crashing left and right. What are you thinking here on the economy?
I think that we are slogging around in the sort of 1% range, and I think that that is about what we've expected. So there was a time last year where the economy was surprising you and me on the upside. Mm-hmm. But I think right now, if we were in the White House going over the numbers again, we say, yeah, that's about what we expected. The thing that's a little lower than I expected is inflation. Mm-hmm. Like the PCE came in at 0, and that was a little bit below what I expect because wage inflation has been still pretty high because that comes with a lag. And so what it means is, at least for a moment now, that real wages are actually increasing finally for workers a little bit. And so that's a little bit of good news. Not
for the whole term, but recently.
Oh, just recently. That's right. Real wages are down for the whole term. Absolutely.
I'm looking at the Cleveland Fed inflation nowcasting. So what they're saying for the second quarter, Kevin, is the CPI will be 3% annually for the second quarter. The core will be 3.5%, and the PCE consumption deflator 2.5%.
Yeah, 2.6 or something was what I had. Yeah,
and the core 2.81. So they're still above target. I mean, I still don't see any rush to cut rates. What do you think?
No, there wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. They won't cut rates before the election. It would be preposterous for them to do it. But the point is that I think that the higher for longer strategy seems like it's working pretty well. That inflation is headed down, projecting in the right direction, and the Fed. I think you and I talked about this on TV, and I said the only way the Fed cuts rates this year is if they've been taken over by Democrats, and thank goodness they didn't. Right? They were data dependent. I thought they were going to juice the economy for Joe Biden. The economy is softening, which is not good for Joe Biden, but it is getting inflation under control. So the Fed has, tipped our cap to them. They've been doing their job about right. It's been about data dependent, which means they're not going to cut rates this year because, unless there's a really, really radical change and we're not growing in the 1 to 2 range, but going negative, then they're not going to cut rates.
What do you think about the Fed makeup? I, by the way, think you should run the Fed in the next administration. Now, I penciled you in for Treasury or Fed. You do a brilliant job either one, not just because you're a pal of mine, but because you're a brilliant guy. But the Fed, actually, I think the Fed staff is peopled by Democrats, right? I mean, that's...
No, for sure. It was 98%. Right. There was one survey, 98% of the economists at the Fed are Democrats. Right.
But somehow they've come out of this reasonably well.
They have.
Despite their biases.
Yes, that's right. Despite their biases, that you have to say because again, don't forget at the start of the year when you and I were wondering whether they had become a partisan organization, that the market was saying they're going to cut rates 6 times this year, even though inflation was still close to 4. And that made no sense. Right. And they were kind of signaling that, too. And I kind of wonder if the fact that you and I discussed like the partisan implications of them cutting with the data like that didn't, in fact, have an impact.
I think it helped. I think that's a good point. Malpass pitched in, Laffer pitched in. I think you're right about that. They're listening, and they came out of this thing pretty good. Anyway, we're running out of time. Kevin, glad you're back on it, and keep it up, buddy. Keep it up. Yep. Give Trump all the best advice. Guy's on a roll right now. Guy's on a tear.
Yes, but he doesn't need us.
Actually, I know. Isn't that the truth? I love that story. Folks, Kevin Hassett, his book is The Drift, Stopping America's Slide to Socialism. You ought to read it. One click on Amazon or wherever. It's a very important book. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, Greg Jarrett, Fox News legal analyst. Supreme Court came out with 2 very important cases yesterday with bearing on the election and the economy. I'm Kudlow. We'll be right back.
This is the Larry Kudlow Show.